All right, today we're going to be detectives, but not the kind you see in movies. We're on the hunt for clues to crimes committed against our planet. We're talking about the scientists who are out there right now uncovering invisible threats lurking deep in our oceans.
So you have to wonder, right? When our oceans are facing these silent chemical dangers, who's on the case? Well, let's meet the investigators. The answer? The marine geochemist. Think of them as scientific detectives, but for the entire planet. Yeah, these are the folks who follow the chemical breadcrumbs left behind in our waters, on the seafloor, everywhere. Okay, so what is a geochemist, really? Well, they're these incredible experts who mix chemistry, geology, and even physics to basically read the Earth's chemical story. They analyze everything, rocks, water, you name it, all to figure out where different elements are and how they behave. And their mission is absolutely critical. I mean, they track pollutants all the way back to the source and then figure out where they're going to go next. This isn't just sitting in a lab either. It's a mix of field work, boots on the ground, plus super careful lab experiments and powerful computer models. And all that work, it gives us the hard evidence we need to create policies that actually protect our environment. Okay, so to really see how this works, let's visit a real-life crime scene. We're heading over to the Bay of Bengal, right off the coast of India. This is where geochemists were called in to investigate a serious case of suspected contamination.
So this is the investigation zone. To get the full story, the complete chemical picture, the researchers took sediment samples from all over the place, at different distances from the coast. We're talking from 1 to 10 kilometers out. Why? Because that helps them map out just how far the contamination has spread.
But why focus on the sediment? Good question. See, when pollutants get into the water, they don't just disappear. No, they sink, they settle, and they build up in the seabed. The seafloor basically becomes this long-term storage unit, almost like a time capsule, preserving all the evidence for our detectives to find later.
And who are the prime suspects in this case? A nasty group of toxic heavy metals. Think cadmium, arsenic, and mercury. Now, these are not your average pollutants. They're persistent, which means they stick around for a long time. And worse, they can bioaccumulate. That means they build up in the food chain, threatening not just marine life, but eventually us too.
All right, so the evidence is collected, the suspects are lined up. How do our detectives actually crack the case? Well, they have this specialized forensic toolkit, a set of what are called geochemical indices to analyze all the data. First up is something called the Geoaccumulation Index, or IGEO for short. The easiest way to think of this is like a background check. It tells the scientists exactly how much of a metal is in the sediment compared to what should be there naturally. It's the very first clue that something's wrong. And then they use the Ecological Risk Index, or ERI. This tool takes things to the next level. It's not just about measuring how much of a pollutant is there. It's about assessing the actual danger it poses to the whole ecosystem. This is how we find out just how serious the situation really is. And here it is, the smoking gun. This is the actual data from that Bay of Bengal study. Now check out that bottom right chart. That's the Ecological Risk Index. You see how cadmium and arsenic are way up there in the red? That's not good. That's a clear signal of a moderate to high ecological risk. So, the verdict was in, and it was clear. The levels of cadmium and arsenic in those coastal sediments, they pose a significant ecological risk. Case closed. Our detectives found their culprits and confirmed just how dangerous they were.
But the work of a geochemist doesn't just stop with one case. This kind of local evidence is a vital piece of a much, much larger global puzzle. So let's zoom out now and see how it all connects.
This kind of research, it's the scientific engine that powers these massive global initiatives, like the UN's Sustainable Development Goal 14, which is all about life below water. Because look, to protect life in our oceans, you can't just guess. You need the hard data, the stuff that reveals the real truth.
And this work goes way beyond just tracking metals. It's crucial for tackling other huge challenges, like ocean acidification. That's another one of these invisible threats. And believe me, marine geochemists are right there on the front lines, tracking the fundamental chemical changes that are happening to our planet.
Just look at this graph. It tells a really stark story. That red line climbing up, that's atmospheric CO2, going up and up for the last 60 years. And right there with it, in perfect lockstep, you see the blue line. That's the pH of seawater dropping. It's getting more acidic. The connection is absolutely undeniable.
I mean, just let this number sink in for a second. A 26% increase in acidity since pre-industrial times. That is a massive chemical change happening in what's basically the blink of an eye, geologically speaking. And it has real consequences. It's literally dissolving the shells that creatures like corals and shellfish depend on to survive.
But the good news is we are fighting back with knowledge. This map here shows a whole global network of scientists and monitoring stations, all working together. It's this huge, coordinated international effort to track these chemical changes, and it's giving us the critical data we need to understand and hopefully respond to this global threat.
So you see, from a single bay in India to the entire planet, these geochemists are the ones providing the hard evidence we need to make smart decisions. They're revealing the hidden chemical story our oceans are trying to tell us. Look, the science is crystal clear. The data is in. The oceans themselves are telling us their chemical story. The only question left is how are we going to respond?